Hello, everyone. This is Jill Whalen from whatdidyouDoWithJill.com. And I have a guest here with me today, Alison Chan Lung from AlisonChanLung.com. And we chat all the time. We've been chatting probably almost on a weekly basis for, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something now. Feels like a while. And we have such great conversations that we thought we would record one and see how it goes, see if other people are interested in some of the really interesting and deep things we talk about. We thought today we would start perhaps with the topic of lightheartedness, but we'll see where it goes from there. So, hello, Alison.
Hi there, Jill. Good to see you.
You too. So, lightheartedness.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I used to think that I was quite a light-hearted person, but then I realized that I could take things really, really personally. And I've noticed that lately, I'm not taking things so personally. I'm kind of getting over myself quicker. I'm not so serious about things. And I think that's why I suddenly thought, gosh, actually, I think I'm more truly light-hearted now than I was before.
Nice. So what do you think, where was the change? What was the impetus?
It's funny, isn't it? Because you don't always notice the change until you get a sort of feeling. I suppose the main thing that happened for me is when I realized that my feelings are coming from my thinking rather than the person in front of me or even what the person is saying. So if someone's saying something to me that I don't like, I don't get caught up in it as much. Whereas I think before I would have got into an argument or I would have had to give my opinion. I would have felt some kind of like, oh, I've got to get in there, I've got to say my bit, you know?
Yeah.
I can't let them take advantage of me, or I don't know. It's almost like I think I took what other people thought of me quite seriously. I think that's quite common, though.
I think that seems to be, from all the people I've been talking to lately, that's like so common. That seems to be the thing holding back so many people. Like they're just so worried about what others think. And really, and on that, the whole lightheartedness thing, I was shocked when I was at Bill Pettit and Linda Pettit's, they were doing a seminar or workshop in New York City, I don't know, 6 months ago or whenever it was, and they were talking about lightheartedness, and they kind of asked people in the room, like, who doesn't think lightheartedness is good, or that you shouldn't be lighthearted, and like so many people raised their hand that they shouldn't be lighthearted. And I was looking around the room, and Jackie Ford was there too, who, if you know her, anyone, she's totally lighthearted as well. And we kind of looked at each other, and even my daughter, who was there, she was like raising her hand, and I'm like, you're kidding me, because like all these people like think that life has to be so serious, and they really believed it. And all I can think of is they think it's like unprofessional or something, but you can totally be professional and still be lighthearted, and I think people like that personally.
So it sounds like almost like when you're grown up, you have to take life seriously. Obviously, we all have responsibilities. We all have to do certain things. But I wonder if that's where it starts. Is it partly a culture of we must be serious in order to get things done? Or is it part of being an adult, a grown up, that we can't, as you say, perhaps be lighthearted? We won't be taken seriously. We won't be thought of as being professional. I know sometimes when I'm working with clients, actually, the best thing to do is when you say something and the person kind of laughs, or they say something themselves and then they laugh, because it's like there's a kind of a a more relaxed feeling once that happens.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think people somehow think that being a grown-up is having to be serious. I remember being scared when I was in college, like my senior year of college, thinking, okay, now I have to, now I have to be a grown-up. I have to go out in the world and be a grown-up. And I got all scared. I got all scared thinking about that, like that I can't be a kid anymore. And I don't know, that kind of just disappeared, I think, when I realized nothing really changed.
Yeah. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because is it because of responsibility, or is it actually that we think you need to be serious in order to be responsible?
Right. It's totally just what we think. And like you said, it's just culture. It's just somehow you're brought up to look at adults and think they're all serious. And I guess because most of them are.
Yeah. Because they're weighed down with all their heavy stuff, I suppose. And also I was just thinking, isn't it interesting how we, like you said, we take what other people say about us, or what we even think they're thinking about us, seriously? Why would we give someone else that sort of credit? And does it really matter? I suppose, what is at the bottom of it all? Because we've all done it. We'll probably do it without realizing it at times.
We do. Some more than others. But yeah, we all do. But it's that to me is like hilarious that we do that, because it's so like other people don't give a crap about us at all. Like, they're not thinking about us. They're so busy thinking about themselves and what other people think about them. They might spend a passing thought, oh, she looks weird today, or oh, she shouldn't act that way, and then it's out of their head, unless, I mean, it makes them feel better to talk about it to their friends or something like that. But like, who cares? Who cares what someone says, because it makes them feel better? Because that's all it is, I think, when people are looking down at someone else, or, if you care what someone thinks, it's only because you think that they think you're doing something bad or wrong, I think, right?
I think you touched on it when you said a passing thought. That's what's even more silly, isn't it? Because it literally could just be a passing thought, or it could be a passing comment. But then 2 minutes later, they could have a completely different thought about you. They might think, oh, actually, Jill's fantastic. It's this whole kind of, I suppose, getting caught up in other people's approval, but thinking we know what they're thinking. I think you've touched on that before, haven't you, about minding your own business?
Yeah. Yeah, because we think we know what they're thinking.
We're so powerful.
Yeah, it's so funny. We think we know what they're thinking, and especially if you know the person very well, then for sure what they're thinking, because I know them. They're always thinking this, but we don't know. We don't know. And even if we did know, who cares?
Why does it matter? Why do you think it matters? Does it tap into our own insecure thinking about ourselves?
It's totally our insecurity. Yeah. Like we seem to need this validation from others to show that we're okay. And that's why we also judge others, and others judge us, because we have to compare ourselves. Am I better? I mean, I'm definitely guilty of this as well. Like, I want to be better than everybody else. And I don't know why. It's insecurity.
Yeah, I suppose it comes from ego as well, doesn't it? Maybe even wanting to be better than everyone else. And I suppose now we see other people's lives. We see it on social media, or the images that they present. Oh,
yeah. Which is a total danger in itself, because it's fake. It's not real. So everyone's striving to be like Jane Doe over there who's, you know, having the perfect life on vacation every day and, you know, posting all the beach pictures. And how come I don't have that when, you know, those beach pictures, who knows? Jane could have taken them 10 years ago. They could not even, they might be somebody else's pictures or whatever. Or Jane maybe paid her dues and worked really hard and now she gets to go to the beach every day, whatever, you know?
Yeah. I think you touched on it when you said it's because we don't feel okay about ourselves, or we don't see that we are okay, that we look outside for validation or approval, or like you say, we might see pictures of someone else and think, well, why am I not like that, or why am I not doing that? So it's focusing on what we feel is not right. So then that probably then actually lowers our mood, and that's why we can't be lighthearted in that state of mind.
Yeah. So why are we so insecure? What do you think?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Is it because we're not aware of our true nature that is actually there under the surface, where we're always okay, where we're resilient, where we have everything that we need?
Yeah, we're definitely not aware of that most of the time. But even if you are, like, it's interesting because I know that intellectually for myself, but still, I still find myself getting insecure. And, you know, and so many people I talk to that they know this as well, and they still find themselves getting insecure. It's interesting.
I suppose we could say it's part of the human experience, that we're going to go through different feelings, but is it about whether we put any meaning on it that makes it stick around? You know, if we start thinking I'm insecure, we're going to see life in a different way.
Yeah.
And take it very seriously, I would think. You know, when I've been in those moments of insecurity, oh, it's dark, isn't it? Nothing looks quite right, particularly myself, probably.
Yeah. Well, it's fear, right? It's the difference between fear and love. And when I remember to think about that, you know, in the way I'm feeling, you know, is this coming from fear or love? Like the Course in Miracles says, that's like that. Oh, that helps me a lot when I think about it that way, because you don't realize until you think about it how many thoughts are coming from fear, and then how we act out of fear. You know, when we worry about what other people are doing, or if they're safe, or, you know, just minding other people's business is a fear thing somehow. We're so fearful.
And I guess in that fear state or that insecure state, we're going to take what someone else says very seriously. We're going to believe it. We're going to believe all the bad things we're thinking about ourselves. If you don't know, or even if you do know that your feelings are coming from your thinking, but I think once you, like you say, once maybe you catch a glimpse of that, it does open up something. Or that's what happened with me. It started to open up something in me where I started to see it more. I didn't trust my bad feeling anymore, that it was coming from something outside of me, or something someone else had said, or a comment someone had made. I began to sort of see beneath it. Has that been the same for you?
Yeah, sometimes, most
sometimes.
of the time.
Comes and goes. Comes and goes, yeah?
Like when I remember, yeah. But it's like, easy to forget as well. But sometimes I'm able to just laugh at myself, you know, and just be like, oh, there you go again, you know. And that's where the lightheartedness again comes in. I think
so.
Yeah, the more we can do that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking I'm able to kind of get over myself more quickly, whereas before I would probably dwell on it and what did they mean by that and why is this happening, and I tie myself up in knots, sort of analysing it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I find like sometimes the things for myself that I'm worried about outside of myself, like other people, what other people are doing, let's say, like I realized recently that it's like just it's me who's the one who's obsessed, you know, thinking that somebody else is obsessed with something that they're doing or not doing or whatever it might be. And then it's me who just becomes obsessed with the same thoughts going through my head over and over again. It's like, the other person has no clue. They don't even know. They have no idea what I'm thinking, you know?
No.
I could sit all day long being obsessed about something that's not happening. That's just completely made up. It's funny. Funny humans.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very much. It's like when somebody's done something wrong and that other person has gone off, they're just living their life. But you could be sitting there thinking about it, not forgiving them, thinking horrible thoughts about them, getting caught up.
That's such a common one when people won't forgive. And that one can be hilarious because people think that they're in a fight with someone else. The other person oftentimes has no clue that they're in this fight with them, and the one who thinks they are could be so consumed by this fight that doesn't exist, and whereas on the other side, they're just going about their life, going about their business. And I mean, how common is that, right? That we have these one-sided fights or arguments or whatever, and then hold on to it and never forgive and let it eat you up inside, when meanwhile it's never really happened. It's gone. And
people can sort of almost stop living when they get caught up in that.
Forgiveness, as you know, you always hear, it's not for the other person, it's for us. And you can see why. That's exactly why right there, because the other person doesn't necessarily even know anything's happening. So forgiving them and forgiving yourself for even wasting time, you know, in this state, just helps you to get out of it.
It's that whole thing, isn't it, of taking your thoughts so seriously. It's like using your thoughts against yourself, because it's not affecting the other person. Like you say, they're long gone. But it's kind of, it's a bit like, I suppose, almost, like you say, making up a whole story, how this person wronged me, but I'll never be able to forgive them. I'll never be able to let them have that satisfaction. But they wouldn't even know, probably, would they? Whether you've forgiven them or not.
And that's the interesting thing about forgiveness, is you don't have to tell the other person. You can if you want, but I mean, they don't even have to be alive anymore. You can forgive people in your past. You can forgive people in your past who you don't see anymore. I mean, but it does something. It does something for just like erases the hurt or whatever, because really the past doesn't exist anymore. And that's something that, you know, it's hard for people to grasp as well. But there's no such thing as the past. I heard something recently that they said something like even our when we try to think about the past, we're only thinking about our memories of the past. So like you don't have any direct connection to it because it doesn't exist. And so why hold on to something that doesn't exist? It's kind of deep.
Yeah. And of course our memories are just a collection of personal thoughts, actually, aren't they? They're not the truth, so to speak. They could be very distorted. They could be very negative about this person.
Because it's our what our reality was at the time, or maybe not even. It could be what our, how we're thinking about it now might even not be the same way that we experienced it then, because it's just depending on our thoughts in the moment. That even that could change how we think about the past, and then the past changes. Really, I mean, in a way, you have because of separate realities, and the way we experience life comes from our thoughts. You don't even know that situation was true, and you think about it differently. Suddenly the past has changed. In a weird kind of way.
Oh yeah, because like you say, it doesn't really exist. So actually you could think anything about it, because it's not a true picture of it.
Right. What if you suddenly had different information, say like that person was in a bad mood that day or something like that? You may suddenly, your whole idea of what had happened might change, and it explains it, like, oh, you didn't know that, somebody had just died in his family or whatever. No wonder they were all caught up and acted that way. And suddenly the whole situation is different. So yeah, that it sort of changes the past in a weird way.
Yeah, I think that does happen, doesn't it? Suddenly you find out some extra information, or like you say, you find out they've had a bereavement, or they were feeling in a bad mood that day, so they were saying things that they wouldn't normally say.
Yeah, so why don't we generally give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Instead, we just assume they're there to attack us, be mean, and we could instead be giving them the benefit of the doubt. And when they say something we don't like, I mean, I hear so many people talking all day. They shouldn't do that. They're disrespecting me. This is bad. And it's like, give them a break. I don't think anyone is purposely out there trying to be mean to other people. I just don't think that. And if they are, it's coming out of their own insecurities, and that's just the only way they know how to act. But nobody wants to be mean. They want to be loved.
I suppose what you're touching on is people's psychological innocence. They're doing what seems right to them in the moment.
Yeah, and it may not even seem right to them, but it's just what occurs to them.
What makes sense to them, but it might not make sense. But I suppose we get caught up in it because of our own ego, or we think that when someone acts what we would consider as acts against us, or some kind of bad behavior, that it's something to do with us, that it's saying something about us. That changed a lot of things for me when I saw that it's not saying anything about me. They're in their own, as you say, probably insecure thinking.
Yeah.
But we take it personally.
Because 90%, let's say, my made-up statistic of our thoughts are about us, right?
Yeah.
So we assume everybody else is thinking about us too. But 90% of theirs are about them, of course. And it's not about us. And we don't care about them. We only care about our thoughts.
Yeah.
It's all ego, like you say, but it's but that's not real. You know, that's, I think, the thing that that's the key to all this stuff, to being more lighthearted, to feeling better, to being less insecure. It's just starting to see that ego voice, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, the thoughts, the insecurities, it's not who we are. It's hard to really do that. It's hard to wrap our heads around it, because it sounds like us, right? It's, you know, it seems like us. It's kind of been there with us for our whole life, or it feels like it has, but it's not who we are. And I think somewhere in there is the key to being more lighthearted, to just feeling better, is just recognizing, starting to remember that that's not us. That's just some crazy person who lives in our head.
It's almost like we're defending our made-up personality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rather than...
That's a whole nother thing too, with identity and labels, and which is huge, has huge implications.
Yeah, and I think you're right. When we maybe just get a tiny glimmer of who we really are. I always love that expression, you know, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of touches on what we really are, who we really are, that can't be destroyed, it can't be affected by anything. But what we take to be who we really are, our personalities, which are quite fragile. And then we start kind of defending them, or we get quite defensive.
And that's just our character, right, in the game. And if we want to talk about lightheartedness, then we can talk about this whole aspect that, you know, what if this really is just a game that we're here to play? And if that's the case, which I do believe it is, then how good is that we can be any character we want. We can do anything, because the worst that can happen is we die in this game. And I believe that we don't actually die completely. You know, something lives on. So, I mean, I still get scared about that. I'm not totally, but you know, the more and more we can believe that this, just have fun. This is just a game. No matter whatever you do, there's no right, there's no wrong. It doesn't mean to go around pillaging and plundering and being bad because you can. But I mean, maybe that's your character. But you know, it's short, so enjoy it.
Yeah, and I suppose the more I think about it now, the more I sort of maybe catch a glimpse myself, I can see how it must be a game, because our spiritual nature cannot be changed, destroyed, affected. So it's like that part will always remain anyway.
Yeah.
We're kind of playing the game as somebody. It's almost like you say, a character, an actor maybe.
And that's what's so cool, because when we realized we're a character in this game, and we have, you know, we build this identity, we create it from birth on, but it's not fixed, right? You know, when you're not the same as you were, you know, as a kid, or, you know, every 10 years or something, you realize how much you've changed or whatever. For me personally, I see how much I've changed just in 3 years, a completely different person than I was. And that shows me so clearly how my identity cannot be fixed and fixed in place. You know, it's static. It's movable and changeable. And so, I mean, that opens up the whole world, the whole game possibilities so much. And it just changes so much, because when you believe that you're just this type of person and that's who you are, it creates all those bad habits you think you're going to have forever. You know, you're never going to. I've talked to some people who have food issues, and that's just as they know themselves, they believe it's just part of their identity. It's who they are. And they don't think that can change. And it can change. It could change in a snap of a finger even.
I suppose that's where your kind of awareness goes up, or you can go up in consciousness, if you like, without, it can just happen without you necessarily having to do something. Maybe you have an insight, maybe you have a feeling that kind of elevates you and shows that you're not stuck. You're not stuck in that personality. You're not a fixed personality, even though you might still have your preferences and what you like and what you don't like, but actually even that is not fixed.
Right. And when you leave that little teeny gap open of knowing that, you know, if you totally believe that, you know, you are this certain thing, and you leave no room for it, no opening for things to change, then things won't. But if you just, even if it's just a teeny little bit, you just believe it, maybe I could change a little, loosen up that grip a little teeny bit. Sometimes that's all you need to, you know, for something else to come in and have you see, oh, this can change. And then, you know, from there, sometimes, boom, the whole window's open, and you're, you know, big changes can come. But they can, yeah, I mean, change can come in a second, you know, from an insight, where things just fall away. And then, or sometimes for some people, things happen gradually, where all of a sudden they realize a year later, oh, I don't do that thing I used to do anymore, which is cool too.
Yeah, I think it gives a lot of hope, doesn't it? Particularly for people that are caught up in habits or addictions, or I suppose even being serious, taking everything seriously is kind of a bit like an addiction, isn't it? It's like, I suppose it's, yeah, it's kind of, like you say, allowing for something new to come through.
And knowing it will, if you give it a chance. As
Yeah.
it always does.
You don't have to do anything for it to come through. I suppose it's new thought, isn't it? New thought or new thinking comes through.
Yeah, if you let it, if you give it a chance. I mean, new thinking's coming anyway, but it can be the same old thoughts. But if you realize that they can be different ones, if you give them a chance, or maybe pay attention to them. I mean, thoughts are only important to us as we give them meaning, because otherwise there's nothing to them really. It's us paying attention to them and giving them some kind of meaning that causes, well, good or bad feelings, causes our the way, our whole experience really.
Yeah.
It's all interesting. I really believe that the more people realize that their reality isn't the reality.
Yeah.
You know, that alone could change their lives and then the whole world.
I suppose when we see that, we become more accepting of ourselves and others. Because we're not all going to see things the same way or think things in the same way, but we often try really hard to get other people to do that. So we can feel right, so that we feel, oh, they're on the same side as us.
Yeah. And isn't it, what I've learned for myself is how much, when I stop paying attention to what other people are doing and look more at myself and what I've been doing and my part that I've played in my relationships and everything else, and start to feel better about myself overall, that's when stuff starts to change, because that's all we have, right? We can't change other people. That I know. You never change, but you can change how you think about other people, and that is a miracle in itself. If we have this image in our head about people that we know, especially those we've known for long periods of time. And what if that image isn't right? And it's not right. you know, but it's really hard to, it's the same with our own identity. Just thinking about the other people's identity as not how you thought it was, or, you know, realizing, well, they've changed as well, and seeing them in a new light, that so much causes miracles to happen. Because if you see yourself in a new light and you see them in a new light, suddenly you have a whole new relationship, because you have two different people in the relationship. The other person doesn't even know it. They're just going about their lives.
I think that's the great thing about it, though, is that it just takes one person to have that change of heart or that new thought about the other person. So you don't even have to involve the other person. Again, it's a bit like forgiveness. The other person doesn't even have to know.
Yeah.
But they can then, but they feel it then. They feel it because you're in a different feeling, and therefore it's like, even without saying anything.
Yeah, because you're suddenly treating them differently, presumably, if you're thinking about them differently. Like, let's say you always get anxious when a certain person's around for some reason, because maybe that person's angry a lot, or, you know, and so they scare you, let's say, a little bit. Say a boss at work or something like that. And if you're always kind of in this fearful place every time they come into the room, I mean, of course they're gonna feel that, even if you don't say anything. And the way you respond to them and the way you act to them is going to be a certain way. If you suddenly could see them differently and realize, well, maybe they're just a scared little boy, you know, or you know, who knows what their mother did to them. You know, I mean, you could create any scenario you want, but knowing that somehow they're actually insecure, and that's why they may have acted, let's say, like a bully in the past. And if you can see them now with compassion, and, you know, like that little boy that just wanted love from his mother, or whatever it might be, and see them that way, right? And just treat them more that way. Imagine how that relationship could naturally transform. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it seems to me that it makes sense that just you treating them differently, suddenly the guy is going to feel it differently, and soften up himself a little bit, and you could have a really good and different relationship with that person.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like the worse we think someone behaves, the worse we treat them. we don't see that they're probably also just wanting, like you say, love.
That's all we want.
Understanding. But
that's all anyone
our defenses go up, and then we treat them possibly more harshly because we don't like the way they're behaving.
Yeah, and again, it's just fear.
I was going to say, does that then escalate the way they then behave towards us?
It totally makes sense. You know, and I mean, I've seen it in my own relationships, but I could see how it would be in every relationship. Marianne Williamson said something the other day on a video I was watching. She was talking about how some guy she used to date years ago, they had broken up, and he was with a new woman, and she goes, "You just like her because she's always telling you how great you are." And he thought about it for a bit, and he goes, "Yeah, you're right, I do." And I was like, oh, boom. I mean, right. What if we were telling everybody how great they are that's in our lives? They were going to love us. And what if we saw the greatness in everyone more, instead of always seeing their freaking faults all the time?
It's interesting, isn't it? What would help people to do that, though? Is it when they can see that everybody at times goes into a mood or a low state of mind or insecure thinking, but not to be frightened of that, because I used to be quite frightened of it. You know, if my partner came home and he'd been caught in traffic and he'd come in and be obviously, you know, not in the greatest mood, I would be a bit on guard, a bit like, oh.
Yeah. But the more you can think about those times and realize it's not about me, you know, it's just him. And if I just leave him alone for a little bit, you know, and let him do his thing and see him differently, or have compassion for him because he had to sit in traffic, it's going to create a different dynamic than if you're scared, oh no, now he's in a bad mood, he's going to yell at me or whatever. Yeah,
I've noticed that with most people, the mood will just subside. But of course, if you pounce on their mood and say, why are you in that mood? What's happening? You know, of course, it sticks it in place longer.
Yeah. And we don't realize how much being fearful creates tension. That was what I didn't know. As an anxious person, that was my normal state: fearfulness, anxiousness, nervousness. And being in that state, you don't realize what a crazy, stupid stuff you do and say when you're in that state. I had no idea. And I thought everything everyone else was doing that was, you know, why are they acting like this? Or why are they being mean? And, you know, but it was partially my fault for because I was in this state and saying stupid things, not being loving, coming from fear. And when I saw my own part in those things, it was like, holy crap. And I think that's the important, that's where we need to look, is our, and not as a blame thing, you know, I don't blame myself or whatever, but just to see, oh, you do play a part in these things. In any interaction, you play a part. I mean, you play all the parts.
And I guess it is a kind of innocence, isn't it? If you have no understanding of moods or state of mind, which most people grow up, they don't, do they? I didn't.
No, I didn't.
Now I can see it more compassionately. I can see how we all go into them. But again, we don't have to take it seriously. I used to get, oh, so why am I in this mood? I wasn't in it yesterday. You know, I totally go round and round, and what's happening to me, and I don't want to feel like this. And then if someone else was in a mood, I don't want them to feel like this. I've got to fix it. I've got to get them out of it. I can't cope with them. It was a lot of work. It was quite exhausting.
I think that's a big piece too, the wanting to, the not wanting the other person to be in a bad mood. And so, you know, we do everything to try and stop it and that just can be irritating to them sometimes, you know, and then things can blow up from there because all they really want is just leave me alone. And, you know, we take that personally. Why won't they talk to me?
Yes.
They just need some space.
Yeah.
Insecurities.
Yeah. It's like there's a whole kind of myth about moods. That they have some kind of power. That actually, like you say, it's just someone getting caught up in their insecure thinking.
Yeah. That's all moods are. And as you said, it's innocent. And all the way we act out of that space can be crazy. But it is innocent. We do it innocently.
And I suppose they're innocently being in their mood, aren't they? Because they believe that something outside of them has caused their feelings. So it is the traffic. You know, they're going, you know, the traffic was awful. And do you think when you're talking to people, they they get an understanding of that? Do you find that it begins to make sense?
Depends. Depends who I'm talking to. A lot of people I've been talking to already have a good sense for knowing that knowing intellectually at least that their feelings are coming from their thinking. So it's a lot easier to just point it out when they're not seeing it. But it's really hard, I think, for at least it seems to me, the average person walking around on the street to get it, because we've been so conditioned to believe that the stuff around us is causing us to feel certain ways. And when there's, I think a lot of people like to hold on to that too.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to blame the world, other people, your bad luck,
the weather.
The weather. If only they could see that none of that can change who they really are. Then they could be more lighthearted. Then they could not take things so seriously. Then they could not care when people say something that they think is mean.
It's quite, when you say it like that, it's quite beautiful actually, isn't it? It's about wanting to help people not suffer and not suffer in the illusion. It's an illusion, isn't it? I didn't see it for many years. I got glimpses of it, but there were certain things where I thought, no, it can't be. My feelings are definitely coming from them. They are definitely making me feel this way. And yet I knew it wasn't completely true, because I didn't always feel that way when someone was doing that. Some people could say something to me and it would just go over my head. I wouldn't take it on board. But if it was someone really close to me, I would sort of buy into it more.
Right. Nobody cares if some stranger or like a bum on the street, says something to you because you don't take it seriously. And maybe that's because it doesn't affect your ego or your insecurities or something. I heard a great analogy, Paul Hederman. I've been listening to all his stuff. Amazing. I love his stuff. He was talking about the sky doesn't care about the clouds being in it. The sky doesn't care about all the birds shitting in the sky, whatever. It doesn't care what happens. The birds can be flying, the airplanes can be doing stuff. None of it touches the sky. The sky is still always there as it is in its perfect state. And that's the same as us, really. Underneath all the stuff that's happening, it's just the birds and the clouds and the airplanes and whatever else is happening up there. It's got nothing to do with us. We're still the perfect blue sky, always. And I love that.
Yeah, it's a really good description. That we too can be like the sky.
We are the sky.
We are the sky.
We are the sky, yeah. And it's clear, right? Like, expansive. Nothing can touch it. Nothing can hurt it. Things happening all around it, but it's not who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really lovely place to... Just knowing that kind of gives you a lighter feeling.
If you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose that's part of it's part of the sort of spiritual nature, actually, isn't it? Because we have that same, I don't know what you would call it, that intelligence behind life, or the life force, or whatever it is that's powering the sky is also powering us. It's there, isn't it? It's the infinite possibilities that we have.
Yes. And it is infinite. Every moment, is a new moment for anything to happen.
Mm. We don't know actually what we can create. We don't know our potential.
No, limitless, unlimited potential.
Mm.
And that's really cool, right? I mean, it just opens up the whole world to us. We can do anything we want. We can be anything we want. We're not a fixed thing. We're the sky. We can do anything. And we really can. I mean, it's not just nice words. I mean, I really believe it. I really see it. The only thing that stops us, well, is our own thinking, but we also have to deal with time because,
Right.
you know, I think, and that's, people want things now. They want it to change now. And I think if you can just have patience too,
Mm.
then, and you just, you know, are confident that what you want, you're going to have, and you can be what you want, but just have a little patience with it too. Don't worry so much about time. Time goes by fast.
I suppose time is just another thing we use, isn't it, to sort of beat ourselves up. Well, I don't have enough time, and I've got too much to do, and in a kind of a way, this isn't necessarily about doing, is it? It's about being, and then from that, what unfolds, which could be something that we do. It could be an action.
Yeah, you still have to do, but you do what comes naturally.
Yeah.
Based on what you want and what you're passionate about and what you feel like doing. I mean, that sounds, obviously we have responsibilities and things like that. So, I mean, but you just do them, right? You know, you just do them.
I suppose that comes back to what we initially started with, really, isn't it? You've got a light-hearted way of being and doing things, because you've still got to live in the world, you've still got to do your chores, and you've still got to pay your bills, or the really serious sort of almost like worrying about what's going to happen and what's, you know, if I suppose it's kind of a going into the future, isn't it? Worrying about everything, and that's where the seriousness often comes from.
Yeah.
If I don't do this, that will go wrong, and then this will fall apart, and as though we were totally in control of everything that happens.
Which we're not at all. But the what you were just saying, we have to do these things, pay the bills, do those things, right? But we can do them happily in a lighthearted way, or we can do them and be grumpy, you know, I don't want to pay this bill, I don't want to do this, or you know, I don't want to be here. But what a difference just in the change of mindset. I have to do this, so if I'm gonna have to do it, I can do it happily. I can sit with the vacuum cranking up my music in my ears, you know, and whatever, or I can be saying, well, I don't want to vacuum, blah 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 blah, or just get a Roomba like me who vacuums for me.
Tell me more about that.
Oh yeah, the robot vacuum is awesome.
Robot vacuum.
But you know, anything we do, right, that we don't want to do, I mean, there are things we have to do, so do it happily, or find a way to not do it, you know, pay somebody to do it, or you know, whatever. There's so many ways, but really what we always want to strive for is to be in that happy place, because that's where, well, I mean, why would you not want to be?
Mm. Yeah, I think the more you're in that nice feeling, I suppose the easier it becomes, because you flow then. You're not resisting as much. You're kind of flowing with what is rather than resisting it.
Right. Because you don't.
I haven't completely got there yet, but when I'm in that feeling, I just kind of get on and I do things, or something will come to me and I'll think, oh yeah, do that.
Yeah, because you can resist all you want, and that's just going to make you miserable. We really don't have control over most things, and so give it up. Resistance is futile.
I'm sure we could talk more about that. It's a kind of a big topic, isn't it? Resistance, procrastination. I guess it all comes down to overthinking, doesn't it? Thinking about stuff.
And control. Thinking we're in control.
Thinking we're in control.
We'll do that. We'll have to do another talk on that. I think we're coming up here too close to an hour, so we've probably bored people enough already.
Probably switched off long ago and went and did something fun. Let's hope.
Instead of listening to too boring. Well, it was awesome as always speaking with you.
Thank you, Jill.
Hopefully some people will make it to the end here. If you did, let us know, because we want to know.
Or if they have gone off doing something fun, let us know what it was. That would be even better.
They won't hear this part though.
No, that's true. That's true.
So if you hear this part, we want to know for sure. Give us a little comment or something. I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and then we can put it on Facebook and stuff. And I'm Jill Whalen from whatdidyoudo.with jill.com, and you are?
I'm Alison Chandlung from AlisonChandlung.com. Great to speak to you as always, Jill. Thank you.
You too. Have a great day.